Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I am Chuck Stewart. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Metro Transit, and we're happy for you to join us today for our virtual public open house. We're going to talk about service changes that will be taking place in December. We're excited about that. As you know, we've been working on increasing our staffing and improving our service, and things are coming together. And in December, we're going to have a few more changes than usual. The last few months, we've been working on service frequency and reliability. We're actually going to add a few new bus routes in our December service change. So we have a number of my fellow bi-state Metro team members. They will introduce themselves personally when they present to you. But we're going to talk about the service change and overview, route changes, customer communications, and we've got some good news as well for Colorado. So before we do that, Amy's going to kind of set the rules for the road as we go through this process.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amy Parker. I'm the Director of ADA Services here at Metro Transit, and I'm going to just go over a couple of housekeeping items. We do have a lot of great information to share with you, and we want to get through it all. So we're going to work together and accomplish that. Our timekeeper, I think that might be me, is going to be pushing our team to stay on time, so we have plenty of time at the end for your questions and your input. Throughout the presentation, you can leave questions in the chat. You can wait until the end and raise your hand to speak. If you would like to raise your hand, you can do that. There's a raise hand feature you can use. You can use Alt-Y if you're on Windows, Option plus Y if you're on a Mac. If you're on a phone, you can use *9 to raise your hand. We will address as many of your questions as possible during our Q&A period. Please be mindful of the time and understand that we may need to move along if there's other people waiting to ask questions, but I want you to know that it is our goal to answer your questions, and if we can't answer them during this meeting, we will absolutely follow up. And we do ask, if you can, please mute your microphone unless you are speaking during the Q&A. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Amy. Before we get started, again, this is all about the success we've been having over the last year or so in terms of hiring new operators, both bus operators and call ride operators. We have another hiring event coming up on November 10th. Information about that event is on your screen. So we're still hiring. We're still providing the $5,000 sign-on bonus for call ride and mechanics. We've got 10 call ride operators that just graduated, joining our force. We've got over 650 bus operators now, and that's our budget for this year, but I'm still looking for more. We want to make sure that we can continue not only to improve service as we go along, but to continue to maintain the level of service that the community is deserving of. So we will continue that operation. Anybody that needs a job, would like a job, please send them our way.
So I'm sorry. So on November 9th at 10 a.m., they could go to the North County Transit Center up on 3140 Pershaw Road.
Very good. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Amy. And that's from 10 to 2, Pershaw Road, our North County Transit Center. So we're going to move forward now, and we're going to get an overview of our service change. And Jessica Gershman with our planning division will introduce herself and start that presentation. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Good afternoon, everyone. Jessica Gershman, Assistant Executive Director of Planning and System Development for Metro. Our team has been hard at work for many months now, designing, reacting to a new post-COVID environment, and speaking to you, speaking to operators, speaking to customers, speaking to each other about what this should look like. We know we have We're grateful to have a growing resource in our workforce growth that Mr. Stewart just went over, and that is enabling us to make some changes. So what we're doing in December is a regular quarterly service change. It's actually an annual system pick, and but it is part of the 4 times a year contractual obligation to allow for adjustments to schedules and service. In particular, this is a part of a series. It's iterative because we are trying to implement improved service as we grow back our workforce from operators to mechanics. So some of you might recall who are riders that in January and June of this year, we were able to start by adding frequency back to our biggest routes. A core principle here is that if you add more trips to service that the most people take, you make the system more usable. You improve in connections and jobs access across the whole network, but starting with that core and protecting frequency on those biggest routes is the first good step. And so we did that. We were able to collectively across those 2 service changes earlier in 2024, restore about 10% of service that had been reduced due to workforce issues in previous months and years. So that was a big accomplishment. But then on to what we're doing in December, we are following up on that with basically continuing to make the most of the resources that we have today. And so there are a lot of routing changes where we basically needed to refresh and make sure that routes were going where folks wanted to go. Destinations, of course, change. Trip and travel patterns change. We want to make sure that we're being efficient with the resources that we have and that we are matching service levels to demand. So you don't want to run a really, really infrequent bus somewhere. You don't want to run that anywhere, but where you have a new job center or a new sort of academic institution. And so we want to make sure we're matching service to demand. There are 18 proposed bus routes for improvement on December 2nd this year. And this list you see is basically just a categorization. It's not like really prescriptive to how we think about the changes, but it helps us here today wrap our heads around the types of changes we're making. So you'll see in this bullet, reorganizing, combining, splitting. That's an example of maybe there's a set of 2 or 3 routes where we think that we want to make one route, serve one market, and we want to use the other routes to cover parts of the current route. So a reorganizing might look like that. Combining or splitting, that's pretty straightforward. Some routes we are making sure that they are joining at where they already naturally would force a transfer at a transit center, and now you would stay on that same bus. Extending a route, that means having the actual physical bus line go a little bit further into new territory. Some of it is an area where we maybe had service before COVID hit, and some of it is for destinations that we haven't served. And then directness. A lot of what we're trying to do is always, again, in the spirit of efficiency, making sure that if a route is deviating to a destination that no longer serves people, the community the best, we'd rather keep that route straight and direct on a main arterial or thoroughfare. And then with the operational savings of the miles and hours that aren't being used to make a deviation, we can add some more trips back on that route. So that allows us to increase frequency on the routes and serve the core parts of a community that people are looking for. So that's just, again, sort of a sample of the types of routes. I'm sorry, the route changes. What we're going to do for the next 4 slides is go through sort of by geographic chunk across our region. And this is just sample of the proposed changes that we've been discussing with you customers out at transit centers and with operators and with our operations management colleagues for the past several months. So there's 4 slides here. And then we're going to move on to a little bit about customer communication. And then we're going to leave a lot of time for you to ask questions. So these are just going to be snapshots. If you don't mind holding your questions or putting them in the chat, like Amy said, and that way we can get through and circle back in more detail. But again, in St. Clair County, Illinois, we have a set of proposed changes. So pending St. Clair County Transit District final approval, there are partners and operators in that part of Illinois. There are changes to the number 12 O'Fallon Fairview Heights route proposed. That's an example of a route where we would become more direct and be able to put some savings back into more trips, more frequency. or a bulk of that route. The number 14 Memorial Hospital and the number 15 Belleville Shiloh are both routes where they would have pretty minor changes, but they would be improvements to routing and destinations that make the route easier to operate for our operators and sort of extend service a bit. The number 16 St. Clair Square, and you'll see below it is a new route, the number 23 that would serve Swick. Those two together today are the number 16. We are proposing splitting those two up. And the reason is we would like to match the frequency to the demand. So there's higher demand, more boardings per day on the core of the number 16. And the number 23 would become a specialty route that would serve between the Belleville Transit Center and the College Transit Center. So again, matching service level to demand. We've heard some feedback on that route. We are exploring making sure that we are serving all of the sort of corridors that are currently served, like West Boulevard. And so there might still be changes that we're gaining from feedback even in the last 2 weeks to that route. Next slide, please. For North St. Louis County, there are a number of routes where we are, again, sort of reorganizing how we are serving the area. The number 35 Rock Road will be extended to cover some employment sites that are a bit further northwest than it currently goes. It'll go beyond 270. The number 60 Shepley Lilac, which today does not serve North County Transit Center, will begin to do so. We'll be able to hit new destinations like Christian Hospital Northeast, and it would have one terminus at North County Transit Center, and it would remain with the other terminus at Riverview Transit Center. The number 76 would now be a North Hanley shuttle, where it would be a more specialized route serving a lot of employment sites along North Hanley Road. The number 77 and number 78 would have some rerouting to pick up parts of the current 76 that we would no longer be serving by reorganizing. And lastly, the number 100 Hazelwood currently is a one-way circulator, and we would be instituting two-way service out and back, still hitting Amazon, a lot of the light industrial facilities that way, but it would provide two-way service, which we're really excited about. Next slide, please.
I will be very happy to go to the next slide. Could I get some feedback from our participants if they are seeing our slideshow? I've had a report that not everyone is seeing it.
Yeah, I can see it.
Thank you. Thank you. Hopefully we'll be able to help that person who's not able to see it. Thank you for giving me that feedback.
Robin says she sees it.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to trying to group mid St. Louis County and St. Louis City. There have already been some frequency increases that I spoke about before in June in the city, but here are a set of changes that would touch the city and also go into the county. So the number 31 Shoto, we are sort of overhauling that route to make sure that it works better for our operators. There have been issues with how that route cycles, and so we are extending it actually, so customers will be able to reach Brentwood Transit Center from the number 31 Shoto. And making these changes will help us improve the connections and the frequency of the number 57 Manchester at the same time. Those two are important connector routes, and people make a lot of transfers, so we are hopeful that that will be a well-used improvement. Another set of routes, this is an example of a combining change. The number 40 Broadway today and the number 174X Halls Ferry would be combined. Creatively named number 40 Halls Ferry Broadway. And essentially it would serve a lot of the same routing, but you would be able to take that single seat ride from North County Transit Center to downtown St. Louis. The number 41 Lee has just a minor alignment change where it would cover a small part of the 174X that would no longer be covered by this previously described combined route. And lastly, a new number 79 Clayton Ferguson will combine the current 79 that goes from North County Transit Center to North Hanley with the current number 47 Hanley bus. So as opposed to having to transfer at North Hanley Transit Center, you will now have a single seat ride from North County Transit Center to downtown Clayton. So both of those hopefully will enable people to feel that those bus routes are more usable and not be worrying about their connections and just be able to go about their business with a single seat ride. Next slide, please. Lastly, some changes in South St. Louis County. Oops, what? One back, I think.
I'm sorry, I think I skipped a slide.
Yeah, it's okay.
Let's see. Give me just a moment and we'll get back to, this is the one we need. No,
The 21 Watson. So this is a route that we are both increasing frequency and adding another pattern, meaning it will have one terminus at Shrewsbury Transit Center, but it will make alternating trips to different destinations. We're not trying to confuse anybody. We are trying to cover more territory with the resources we have. So one pattern will continue to go to St. Louis Community College Merrimack campus like it does today. And the other pattern will make a trip out to Fenton. This is helping us to restore some fixed route service to Fenton via a different type of routing than we've done before that we haven't been able to sustain since before the pandemic. So we are hopeful that this will be an attractive option and it will pair well with changes we're making in the future to our via microtransit service that serves Fenton. And lastly, a small but important change to the 49 Lindbergh. It will largely be the same, but in South County, it will deviate onto Tesson Ferry so that it serves, so that we now are restoring bus service to to Mercy South Hospital, where we haven't had service since we had to remove the 46 Tesson Ferry. So we're very pleased to be able to add bus service back to that important hospital campus as well. All right, I believe that's it. And now we'd like to talk about how we're communicating this to you and how you can make sure you're up to date with what this means for you. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Michelle Combs.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Combs. I am the Director of the Customer Service Department here at Bi-State Development. And I want to share with you guys what we have been doing to share with the public about the upcoming proposed service changes. So we have had 4 Community Connect sessions and 8 public open houses out there sharing with the community. We've also, with the upcoming changes, there will be rider alerts posted at the impacted bus stops. We will, I'm sorry, you can continue to use your bus stop ID as a source for routing information. We will also have the transit app will be updated in the week, probably in late November. I'm sorry, will be updated in late November for trip planning. And you will be able to reach out to our wonderful customer service department, a live representative, to speak with you by calling our 314-231-2345. For Missouri or Illinois at 618-271-2345, which is live representative. And you can also text us by texting us at 314-207-9786. And as well as reaching out to us at the customer service at metrostlouis.org for if you can leave a public comment on that site as well. So those are ways that you will still be able to reach out to us for any concerns that you may have on this upcoming changes. And after that, you can go to the next slide to Lisa.
Hello, everyone. Lisa Cagle here, Assistant General Manager over at Coloride, and also the person who has been working with VIA for the last few years. So all of these changes that have just been described will have some slight increases on Coloride. So up in the north, most of the changes are increases in frequency and later service. So there won't be any really big changes to the geography for Coloride and the areas that will be going. But the 2 areas that will be covered that are a slight difference to the current Coloride polygons is that number 21 Watson that's going to go out to Fenton, close to Valley Park, to that Wally's out there, if you're familiar with that. That will be a very safe location for people to get picked up or transfer from MetroBus to Call a Ride. So that will be a little bit of an area that gets an increase in coverage. And then also, as Jessica described, going down to Mercy South, that will be something that will be added to the Call a Ride polygon as well. So those are the only geography changes that impact Call a Ride, but those will be some slight increases in the Call a Ride polygon. And we're really excited to be able to be staffed up in order to deliver that to our Call a Ride customers as well. Now with VIA, there will be some upcoming changes. So since we're restoring bus service in various places, VIA originally was something that we wanted to have as part of our suite of services. And that's still something that we want, is a microtransit to be a part of our suite of services, getting people to and from the fixed route and the core network. But we had to use it a lot when we were having problems with driver shortages or other kinds of issues to cover some routes that we couldn't cover then. Now that that service is coming back on MetroBus, we're going to be able to use microtransit more efficiently. So you'll see some changes coming up here in the next few months. Some of that will happen in North County, some of that will happen in South County, and then some of it will eventually happen in West County. But stay tuned to those updates. You will also be able to download a new app and have a new user experience. But all of that will be something that will be coming up in our communications going forward in the next month or so. So stay tuned if you're interested in hearing what's next for VIA. And I think that's it for me. So now on to the next slide, which is question and answers. So I will let the good teammates here field your questions.
Before we do that, before we take the first question, I want to mention that it is Customer Service Week. And here at Bi-State, we are committed to the best customer service possible. And we are celebrating our team members this week, not only Michelle's team that you have lots of contact with in terms of questions, but also our operators who are committed to great customer service. Customer service, I think, is one of our greatest goals, to provide the best service possible, given the resources that we have. And we hope that we are doing that, and we will continue to improve that as we move forward. So with that, questions.
All right, we have a question in the Q&A. I will read it, and then Ms. McClellan, if you wanted to unmute and add anything to it, I'll just go ahead here. It says, hello, I am the social worker for the Holy Angels 1 and 2 at 3499 and 3455 DePaul Lane near DePaul Hospital in Bridgeton. We are asking that you not remove the 35 from there due to those buildings being for folks 62 years and older residents, and many have mobility issues.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Cullen. Did you have anything to add? I believe that was.
Hey, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much the gist of what I was trying to say. I was kind of typing kind of fast, but yeah, that's a 62 and older community. It's 2 little buildings back there right behind St. Charles Rock Road. They're 62 and older. A lot of these people have mobility issues. So we're kind of asking, is it any kind of way that we can still include that little part of DePaul Lane in that route still?
I see. So, Lance, I have 2 colleagues from service planning on to talk about this, but I believe that the idea here was, well, I'm actually not sure. I know we've had a lot of issues with getting around the hospital and access through the campus. So, Lance, I don't know if you have anything more to add about the reason why we had to remove that small deviation. I apologize for not knowing. So you're talking about right here.
It's right there on DePaul as you come off of St. Charles Rock Road. It's
Aren't we still serving it?
no, we were proposing to go out on DePaul Drive or DePaul Lane, I think it is, not by
Oh, it's also called
Jack in the
DePaul
Box.
Lane.
Yeah, and so I have looked at the ridership, and I'll bring this up in the meetings that we have for consideration, whether we keep that serving that area or not. So it's noted. I've talked to her, and so I'll bring it up in our meeting to see if we can keep the route at the present location. The big deal would be is getting a bus stop in the opposite direction across the street. There's no sidewalks. So we'll have to talk about it.
I see. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. David Richardson says, will you be able to increase the frequency on the 31?
At this time, we're not proposing to increase the service on it. We'd like to see what happens to that route. It was important for us to extend that route up to the Brentwood I-64 station because a lot of people are doing that. It alleviates the double backing that we have to do and the interlining with the 57. So at the present time, this route will stand alone. It will still operate on 60-minute service at the present time. In the future, we want to look at possibly getting some of these 60-minute service more frequently. So hopefully later on in future service changes, we can do that.
So maybe once we stabilize the routing, and generally it can take 2 or 3 service changes to see how a change works, but that'll help us understand what we can add if and when we get more operator resources. Sorry, what, Amy?
Well, I
You
was
wanna-
just wondering, and Mr. Richardson, you might be able to help me understand your question too, but is being able to get to the Metro link at either end of the 31 gonna maybe result in a smoother trip like altogether? It's because it used to only just go, it didn't go to Brentwood, right?
Right. No, I don't catch the 31 going down that far. I was just asking because I know that it's a very, well, not very popular, but it's kind of a popular route during the peak hours of the day. I was just wondering maybe, during the peak hours of the day, they can have an increase in the service and then go back to 60 minutes during the off-peak hours of the day. That will help out a lot of people. I mean, I'm glad that it goes up to the Brentwood station. I thought that made sense from the beginning for it to just go all the way up there, but that was my question. That's what I was wondering.
Thank you. All right, Abraham Walker wants to know, will there be changes to the city bus?
Do you perhaps mean the city limits bus, Mr. Walker, the number 16? If that's the case, no, we're not changing the 16 at this time. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Go on.
I was asking, would there be changes to like the city buses such as like the Grand, the Chippewa? Would those buses be changes or are they staying the same?
Got it. Thank you. So a lot of the biggest, most used buses that are in the city experienced changes, no service changes ago in June. So at this time, no, they're not a part of this service package. So we were able to adjust schedules and increase frequency on a lot of those heaviest used routes about 4 months ago at this point. And so no, there aren't any at this time.
Okay, and I do have another question. Would the 61 still be the same too for the county?
Correct, yep. So
Okay,
the one change to the 61 is it's no longer going to go into that Schnucks distribution center on North Hanley, correct, Lance? Because that's going to be solely covered by the sort of specialty number 76 route. But frequency will still be every 20 minutes on the 61 chambers, same
okay,
core route.
okay. And so the times are still gonna be the same for that 61, right?
The times might not be the same, like when I actually, Lance, do you want to talk about that? I don't want to. So basically we have to kind of look at how it all fits together as a big complicated puzzle every single quarter. So I don't want to promise that like if it comes at 407 today, it's for sure coming at 407 in December. Sometimes when we rebuild it, things get adjusted, but for the most part, for these big routes that we're leaving alone, I think most schedules will remain. But Lance, do you want to talk about that? Kind of explain.
The trips leaving Hanley won't change. The trips leaving Riverview may leave a minute earlier. And then with the change at Schnucks, they will be coming down Hanley a little bit earlier. And they will most likely arrive 1 minute earlier at Airport and Hanley. And then get into Hanley. What we're trying to do is we have to connect the buses, not only at Riverview for the buses coming in there, that people are transferring to the 61, but also be able to bring the 61 in and be able to transfer at Hanley to those 77s, the 78s, and the 47s. So right now, with the change we're going to have, we're going to be able to get in there at least 3 minutes prior to the buses leaving Hanley in order to keep the Riverview connection still in place.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Okay, I see a question from Robin. So Robin, I'll read it and then please feel free to add to it. It feels like West County is always considered last, but there are many elderly and disabled people in this area who really need better transit options. Can you give us any idea of when these areas will see changes?
One of the changes that will happen in December 2nd proposed is to take the 57 and operate it as one route that's independent of itself without interlining it with another route. And it presently does that with the 31. So with that change will come 40-minute service on the 57. And then the other change to West County is just on the 21, if you consider that still West County. If she has any specifics on what route, then we could answer those.
This is Robin. I know that the south part of West County, like Manchester, and that area is well covered. But where we have a lot of lack of transit is going from Olive north through Maryland Heights, that area. It's really hard to get a lot of places, and the bus stops are kind of at a distance, but unless you're really close to that main thoroughfare, then a lot of people are being forced onto paratransit because there are no real options that connect you to anywhere. So my concern, and I don't know if maybe the expansion of VIA may cover some of that or not, but there's a big swath of West County when you go from Manchester north up until you get to Page, you really don't have a lot of service.
Yeah, are you talking about like a cross bus that would operate like on 141?
Well, like 141 or something to make everything connect up more. I know it's really difficult now, just to go, even if you wanted to go, say, out to Chesterfield Valley, for some people, that's really difficult. And here's the thing, Olivet, East City, even Creve Coeur to a certain extent are now starting to build more and starting to build a lot of apartment complexes, and it's going to bring in more people. And there's more businesses that are coming out in this area. And what often happens is that basically, and basically, if you're west of 270, there is really a lack of transit.
Now with that area that's on the 91, we presently have 40-minute service on it. And we had to deviate it around the Chesterfield Mall when it closed. And we're gonna correct that issue with buses going out of service out there. So we're gonna correct that in December. Using 141, the trouble with that is there's no good places to put bus stops. It's become more of a semi-interstate. There's no good on and offs. They've eliminated a lot of that to where you could go up on ramp and cross over and go back down. Years ago, back in the 70s, 80s, we used to have a bus that traveled on 141 when it was old. That becomes difficult. That connection going down to Chesterfield Valley off like the 91, if you could transfer there. The 58 at present is really on a tight schedule, and getting it off the highway, you know, causes us to be able not to have, we'd have to add service to the 58. We've had that question a number of times. So as we go forward, we can possibly look at if we get additional bus operators that we could possibly do some things. We looked at an alternative route that would serve all the south and north outer 40s and also connect with Chesterfield City Hall and go down in the valley. But at this time, it just takes too many drivers. But we did come up with a route that would do that. So maybe in the future, that bus could be put back in. And that would be able to serve, you know, all the way from Chesterfield Mall, all the way into Clayton, serving that north and south outer 40 and connecting with the 91 out by Chesterfield City Hall.
Okay, thank you. And I was going to say, I don't know if the expansion of VIA might help with some of that as well, because one of the frustrations here, I know that the West County VIA route really doesn't serve many people at all. And there are a lot of people, I know of someone who honestly gave up a job because there was no way for them to feasibly get to to St. Luke's Hospital because there was no service that would go out that way. They couldn't use Colorado because the hours didn't match up. And we just need more service out in this way. So I don't know if maybe an expansion of VIA at some point might be an option, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
May I ask a follow-up in that case? Are you saying that in your experience and through others that you've talked to have used VIA, that the West Zone doesn't serve St. Luke's, for instance, well, like it's hard to book something, or they didn't know how to use it? Because St. Luke's is in that zone, but maybe are the wait times too long, or particular issues with?
Well, St. Luke's is in that zone, but you have to get to St. Luke's to do that, and that can be a little tricky. And the people that I've talked to, nobody's figured out a way to do it. And I can't, because the people who told me this, I can't remember the exact story, but basically you have St. Luke's that is in the West Zone. You have the I think, I don't know, does that serve the transit center? I don't know.
It goes to Ballas, yes.
It
So
does
that
go
it
to
does
Ballas.
connect to some buses. That's what I was, of course, we would like to be able to do more, but you know, folks can take the 98 or the 58, you can get yourself to Ballas, and then you can take that sort of first last mile to any point in the West Zone. So
Yeah. I can't remember what the person told me exactly, but there was a problem with connecting up with it.
Got it.
And I have heard from other people that have looked at the west zone of Via, who kind of said that it just feels like it's not really serving the people that need it the most.
Okay. Interesting. Well, the neat thing about that service is the boundaries and the service profile are a little bit more malleable in terms of our ability to change because it's a contracted service right now. And so when we hear from customers or we see, you know, demand spiking somewhere, we know that we can adjust and we can do it pretty swiftly. So yeah, we don't have plans for like mass expansion because of course it's there for to be an extension of the fixed route network. We want it to support and feed into people taking bus and rail because you know we're a mass transit operator. So I don't want to say yes, yeah, we're gonna make that a much bigger zone because we already have pretty big coverage. But the where and making sure it's serving where people actually want to go or that it functionally connects to where is most useful, that's good feedback for us to get because we can make adjustments to the geographic boundaries or the profile. So thank you for sharing that.
Sure, thank you.
I was also going to offer, I don't know, Amy, do you have any others and any other questions in the Q&A?
I don't see any other questions in the Q&A or the chat. We sure do have that raise hand function, and we're a small enough group. I think if somebody unmuted and just said, hey, it wouldn't be hugely disruptive.
Well, I don't want to cut anyone off, but I also did want to offer, because the way an open house typically works, right, is we will have a chat with an individual or a small group or a family about the particulars of their transit trip. So if you just want to have more of a personal conversation, please get in touch with us. You could do it through direct message to Amy right here or through any of the other number of communication channels we've shared. And we can have you put in touch with a service planner so that we can make sure everyone feels really solid about what we're proposing and how it'll work for your travel come this winter. So we can offer that offline as well if you don't feel like sharing with the whole group.
Yes, maybe I'll go ahead and skip ahead to the next slide, but it doesn't mean that we're stopping with the Q&A. But here is how you can, maybe you want to be able to dig into what a specific route really looks like, take a look at a map, things like that. You can do that by scanning this QR code on this slide. You can also type in to your browser metrostlewis.org/service change. And that will take you to the webpage that shows details about each of these routes. There is also a link over here to an online feedback form. I do believe that we'll be able to email these slides out to those of you who registered. And there's the online feedback form, which will take you to a SurveyMonkey where you can share your comments that way. You can also call and leave a spoken comment. Maybe you don't want to talk to Michelle's awesome customer service agents live. Maybe you'd just like to leave us a voicemail to tell us about what you think about this service plan. And that you can do by calling 314-982-1400 extension 3433. So those are ways to provide specific feedback about this service change. We did get a new question from Miss Michael Bell Jr. Are there going to be any increases with the bus fare?
Not for December 2nd. as you all probably know, there is a larger fare collection program being implemented. This is a multi-year overhaul to fare. We're trying to introduce more options, more equity amongst them, and have been working with a vendor to make more permanent our electronic faring options. They're going to start installing validators on the buses so that you can not just visually validate, but tap a card or your smart device, eventually rolling out to all vehicles. So there's a lot of sort of infrastructural improvements that are happening concurrently with this secure platform project. Once we do an onboard survey, which will likely happen in spring 2025. So when you're out there writing and someone comes up to you with an iPad and said, "Sir, madam, would you mind would you take a survey and tell me about where you're traveling today?" Take it, because the more we gather data that would be anonymized, of course, about your personal info, the better we can serve you. We'll be having that survey in the spring, and some of the questions will be about fare, and likely sometime after that, we will have to begin contemplating a change to our fare pricing structure. But we're not in a position to do it today to have a date or any sort of details. We are trying to modernize our system, I'll put it that way. Do Lisa, Amy, Mr. Stewart, anyone else who's involved with fare collection have anything to add to that? I didn't mean to.
I think that was excellent, Jessica. Thank you.
Hey, Robin.
Okay, Amy, this is a question for you. And I know I had sent you an email about NaviLens as a possible thing that might work for Metro to actually make the bus stops more accessible. I have talked to the people at NaviLens, and this is just a suggestion, but I've looked at several videos. I've actually played with the QR codes. And one of the advantages that I think that it would be, because I know one of the things that we have asked for in SMART has been to make the bus stops more uniform, which I know, or be in a specific location, which I know is probably not totally realistic just because of the way our infrastructure is. However, what's nice about NaviLens, and they used it at the Missouri Council of the Blind convention this weekend. I wasn't able to go, which is another whole story, but I have tried out the codes. And basically, I found that they actually work extremely well, and that you can be a pretty good distance away from them in order to like tell what a bus stop is. And it's just a suggestion, but I think it might be a less costly way of making bus stops accessible. And I do know that the more that are purchased, the lower the price goes. And it also might be a way to mark like where the train stops for door 1 or door 2 and the Metrolink station. So I just was curious if Metro has actually looked at these and if you thought it might be an interesting idea.
Well, Robin, I want to let you know that we've talked about this at our advisory group in the past about a bit of funding that we got from the 5310 program that has to do with a wayfinding pilot, which is just exactly talking about trying out some of those technologies. NaviLens is certainly one example. We are, like I said, we did receive some grant funding for that. We are actually in the procurement process. We put out for bid a request for proposals for companies that would like for us to test out their technology like that. similar type things to help increase wayfinding, specifically for people with disabilities, for people maybe with limited English proficiency, etc. We are in the middle of the RFP process for that right now. So I don't think Mr. Stewart could let me know, but I don't think that I'm able to disclose the folks who put in bids for that. I'm pretty certain that I can't do it. Lisa's shaking her head no. But I would love to just say, Robin, stay tuned.
I appreciate that. I was honestly really impressed with their technology and what they've been able to do. And for all the other technology that's out there with wayfinding, using things like where you have visual interpreters, it is so much faster, so much easier. So I appreciate that. So I just
Okay.
want to let you guys know what my thoughts were.
Thank
Well, we
you.
thank you.
Okay, the last time I moved up slides, I got another question as well. So I'm going to go ahead and sneak up to the last slide. Besides these methods that I shared with everyone now about how you can give specific feedback about this December 2nd service change, we sure want to remind you about a broader initiative that we have here at Metro to engage with our community on the regular. We might not look like it. It is Monday, 4:52, but we really love talking to our customers. And so Community Connect is a quarterly effort where we get out in the community and we're working on expanding the reach and where that is throughout our very large service area. Jessica can tell me how many square miles, but I'm not a planner, so that's not in my head. We've got another round of those coming up in the beginning of November. Friday, November 1st, we'll be at the Belleville Transit Center. Wednesday, November the 6th, we'll be at the Buda branch of the St. Louis Public Library. Thursday, November 7th, we'll be at the O'Fallon Park Rec Complex, YMCA. And then Friday, November the 8th, we will have a virtual opportunity, which is a format kind of similar to what we've done here today. Although we sometimes we have kind of broader topics. We've talked about secure platform. We've talked about ADA specific things. We just kind of what's going on in our world. Hopefully in November, I'll be able to talk to people about what's going on with a wayfinding pilot, which might include some technologies that we'd like to pilot in the city. So those are on a regular sequence because we learn from you, and that helps us do our work because we're here at Metro because we want to help people get where they need to go. And nobody raised their hand. I'm sad now. Nobody typed a question. That's okay. I would like to echo Jessica's sentiment. If you have a question, but you don't want to ask it in front of the other 20 people that are in this room because it's not our business where you live or where you go to work, please do reach out to us so that we can address your concerns on an individual basis. You can send me a direct message. You can reach out to that customer service email, customerservice@metrostlewis.org. Call us on the phone, send us a carrier pigeon, any of those things. Thank you, Miss Michael Bell Jr., for typing me something in the chat.
Okay, is it time to wrap it up or we're gonna continue for a few more minutes? I just want to say that the purpose of this type of meeting is to inform you, our customers, the public, the people we are serving, of what we are doing. and to get the feedback from you that we need to get in order to do a better job. So we thank you for attending this virtual open house. And as the slides have indicated, we've got a lot more opportunities coming up for us to exchange information. And hopefully through all of this, we will provide better and better service, the best customer service that of course you should expect. So, and that is our objective. So keep the information flowing, and we will continue to give opportunities for to exchange information and working together, we are hoping that we can again improve our service, continue to improve our service, and provide the level of service that you most certainly deserve. Any other comments from the Bi-State Metro team? Okay. Any
Well
other
said.
questions or comments from the attendees? Okay, well then, let's wrap it up, and I'll see everybody on November 1st. I'll see you, when was the event for hiring event? When was that?
The 9th,
The 9th?
Saturday, the 9th.
Make sure you send us people over there. The more people we hire, the better service we're going to be able to give. So thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.